How did people in ancient Egypt escape the heat? Their methods will definitely surprise you. The scorching sun, hot sand, and air that seems thick enough to touch. This is how we imagine ancient Egypt, a civilization born in one of the hottest places on the planet. How did people build giant pyramids and rule an empire? They didn't just survive in this hell. They learned to thrive by creating an ingenious cooling system based on a deep understanding of nature and materials. Their methods were so effective that many of them are admired even by modern engineers. This story is not about gods and pharaohs, but about the everyday ingenuity of an entire people who made the desert their home. Watch the video to the end, and you will learn how an ordinary wig could be more effective than air conditioning. What if I told you that everything you believed about wigs in ancient Egypt is not true? We are used to thinking that a wig is a way to hide baldness or create a complex hairstyle. But for the Egyptians, it was primarily a high-tech device for protection from the sun, a true marvel of engineering. The secret to the wig's effectiveness began with what was underneath it. Almost all Egyptians, regardless of gender or social status, shaved their heads completely. This solved several problems at once, but most importantly, it ensured hygiene and eliminated the heat that their own hair would have created. The wig itself was a complex structure made of human hair or plant fibers, such as palm leaves. The base of the wig was made in the form of a mesh that fits snugly to the head. This structure created an air gap between the scalp and the wig itself. This air gap worked as an ideal insulator. The wig took the full brunt of the scorching sun, but the heat did not reach the skin. The air in the layer remained cool, and any movement of the head or a light breeze created additional ventilation. Moreover, the intricate hairstyles with multiple braids and curls that we see in the frescoes were not accidental. They created an additional ribbed surface that better dissipated heat. Materials also played a role. Wigs made of plant fibers were lighter and more breathable, so they were often worn by ordinary people. Pharaohs and nobles could afford wigs made of natural human hair. The color of the wig was usually dark, most often black. Although we know that dark colors absorb heat, in this case it was not so important. The main role was played by the air layer, which prevented the absorbed heat from being transferred further. Thus, the wig was not just a fashion accessory, but a vital element of clothing. It was a personal, portable shade that protected the most vulnerable part of the body from heat stroke. It was an ingenious combination of practicality, hygiene, and status. Modern technology offers us air conditioners and fans, but the Egyptians found a way to carry coolness with them. Their solution was environmentally friendly, silent, and required no energy sources other than human ingenuity.
I tell you, the breeze goes right through it.
He is right. It is surprisingly comfortable even when the sun is highest.
We are very interested in hearing your opinion. What do you think about this unusual approach to cooling? Write about it in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Are you ready to learn the truth about how ancient houses were more efficient than modern air conditioners? The Egyptians couldn't hide from the heat, so they learned to build houses that fought it themselves. Their architecture was a brilliant response to the challenges of the harsh climate, thought out down to the smallest detail. The main building material was unfired mud bricks made from Nile silt mixed with straw. This material had high thermal inertia. During the day, thick walls made of such bricks heated up very slowly, keeping the inside of the house cool. At night, when the temperature in the desert dropped sharply, the walls began to slowly release the heat accumulated during the day. This created a comfortable microclimate inside the dwelling around the clock. The windows in Egyptian houses were small and located high up, almost under the ceiling. This allowed light to enter, but not direct sunlight. Hot air, which, as we know, rises, escaped through these openings, creating natural ventilation. The pinnacle of engineering was the so-called malkafs, or wind catchers. These were special structures on the roofs, similar to pipes, facing north, where the prevailing winds blew. They caught the cool breeze and directed it down. And this system worked like free and silent air conditioning. It ensured constant circulation of fresh air throughout the house. This simple but effective solution is still used in traditional Egyptian architecture. Inner courtyards were another important cooling element. A small pool or fountain was often located in the center of the courtyard. As the water evaporated, it cooled the air, which then entered the rooms. The ceilings in houses were made very high. This allowed a large volume of hot air to accumulate at the top, away from people. As a result, the lower part of the rooms, where life took place, was always cooler. Even the color of the walls was important. Houses were usually painted white or other light colors. The light surface reflected the sun's rays, preventing the walls from overheating. Thus, every element of an Egyptian house was part of a unified passive cooling system. Do you think modern architects could learn something from the ancient Egyptians? But houses were only one part of protection. Are you ready to learn how the Egyptians wore sunglasses that were also makeup? I will reveal the most closely guarded beauty secret of ancient Egyptian women. The famous eye makeup we associate with Nefertiti and Cleopatra was not just decoration. It was a unique and vital technology for protecting eyesight from the merciless desert sun. The main element of this makeup was thick black or dark green eyeliner. It was applied around the eyes by both men and women. We see this distinctive makeup in all the frescoes and statues, and it had a deeply practical meaning. Black eyeliner, called kohl, was made from galena, a powdered lead sulfide. This heavy black powder was mixed with fat or oil to form a paste. It was this paste that served as protection from bright light for the ancient Egyptians. The principle of operation was similar to how modern athletes apply black stripes under their eyes. The black color absorbs excess sunlight and reduces glare reflected from the sand. This allowed them to see better in conditions of dazzling brightness and reduce strain on the eye. Thus, the Egyptians effectively invented the first sunglasses that did not need to be worn on the nose. They simply painted them on their faces. This technology was available to everyone. In addition, the Egyptians believed that kohl had magical and healing properties. They believed that this eyeliner protected against the evil eye and various eye diseases. Oddly enough, there was some truth to this. Modern research has shown that the lead salts in kohl stimulate the immune system in small doses. They promote the production of nitric oxide, which kills bacteria. This helped prevent eye infections, which were common in hot and dusty climates. Green eyeliner was made from malachite, which was also ground into powder. It was used for the same purposes as black eyeliner. The choice of color often depended on fashion and personal preference. Applying makeup was a whole ritual. The powder was stored in special containers called kohlers and applied with a thin stick made of wood, bone, or metal. This process required precision and skill. This example shows how aesthetics and practicality were inextricably linked in the ancient world. What we perceive today as an element of exotic beauty was in fact a well-thought-out tool for survival. What I am about to show you will change your perception of fashion. Imagine clothing that feels almost weightless on the body, allows the skin to breathe, and protects against the scorching sun. This is exactly the kind of clothing created by the ancient Egyptians, and their choice was not accidental. The main and practically only material for clothing in ancient Egypt was linen. Cotton appeared in these parts much later. Linen is a plant fiber that is highly hygroscopic and thermally conductive. Simply put, linen fabric absorbs moisture well and dries just as quickly. This allowed sweat to evaporate instantly from the skin's surface, cooling the body naturally. In addition, the structure of linen fiber is smooth, so the fabric does not trap air and allows the body to breathe. It creates a feeling of coolness, even in the most intense heat. The Egyptians wore clothes made of the finest, almost transparent linen, which was like a second skin to them. The color of clothing also played a key role. The vast majority of Egyptian clothing was white or light natural shades. White reflects the sun's rays as much as possible, preventing the body from overheating. The cut of the clothing was extremely simple and loose. Men wore loincloths called shenti, and women wore straight dresses called kalaziris, with one or two straps. Such clothing did not restrict movement and ensured maximum air circulation around the body. Sometimes the fabric was draped and arranged in complex folds. This was not only a decorative element, but also had a practical purpose. The folds created additional volume, increasing the air gap between the fabric and the skin. The quality of the linen reflected the social status of its owner. Ordinary people wore clothes made of coarse canvas, while the nobility and priests wore the finest, almost weightless linen, which was valued as highly as gold. The Egyptians were true masters in the production of linen. The process was long and laborious, from growing the plant to spinning the threads and weaving, but the result was worth it. They obtained the perfect fabric for life in the desert. Do you think such clothing was comfortable for everyday life? In the next chapter, you will learn how they used their land's main resource to combat the heat. For a civilization born on the banks of a great river, water was not just a resource, but the very essence of life. The Nile provided food, was a transport artery, and, of course, the main source of coolness. The Egyptians used water in all its forms to make the heat bearable. The simplest and most obvious way was bathing. The Egyptians were a very clean people and regularly bathed in the Nile, canals, or special pools. For wealthy Egyptians, pools in the courtyards of their villas were not a luxury, but a necessity. They spent the hottest hours of the day there, relaxing in the cool water. Gardens were planted around the pools to provide additional shade and coolness. Ordinary people used the Nile and numerous irrigation canals. Bathing was not only a hygienic procedure, but also an important part of social life. It was a place for meetings, relaxation, and communication. The Egyptians also practiced wiping themselves with wet cloths. Linen cloths soaked in water and applied to the head or neck provided a quick cooling effect through evaporation. This simple technique allowed people to work in the open sun. Drinking also played a key role. The Egyptians understood the importance of hydration for survival in the desert. They drank a lot of water, which they stored in large porous clay vessels. These vessels were another ingenious invention. Thanks to the porous structure of the clay, a small amount of water seeped out and evaporated from the walls of the jug. This process, known as evaporative cooling, kept the water inside the vessel cool even in extreme heat.
The jar sweats the water away, and in doing so, the heat is carried off into the breeze. That is why it remains cool.
For the Egyptians, water was a sacred element, a gift from the gods. They treated it with respect and gratitude, and it reciprocated, giving them not only life, but also life-saving coolness. What if I told you that the secret to survival in the desert lies on their plate? The Egyptians intuitively understood that nutrition directly affects well-being in hot weather. Their diet was perfectly balanced so as not to overload the body and help it cope with high temperatures.
Exquisite, prepared perfectly. We are truly favored by the gods.
Indeed, and the figs are exceptionally sweet this season.
The basis of the ancient Egyptians' diet was not heavy meat dishes, but light plant-based foods. The main foods on the table were bread and flatbread made from wheat and barley. These carbohydrates provided the energy needed for hard physical labor. They consumed huge amounts of vegetables: onions, garlic, cucumbers, lettuce, peas, beans. All of these grew in abundance on the fertile lands of the Nile. Vegetables contain a lot of water and fiber, which contributed to hydration and easy digestion.
The heat rises from the fields. Keep working. We have many more to sort.
Bring the ropes here.
Fruit was also an important part of the diet. Sweet dates, figs, grapes, and melons were not only a treat, but also a source of fast carbohydrates and vitamins. They were excellent thirst quenchers and provided a boost of energy. Meat was not eaten very often, mainly on holidays. Preference was given to poultry and fish, which were abundant in the Nile. Heavy and fatty meat, which the body expends a lot of energy and heat to digest, was not popular. The main drink of the Egyptians was not only water, but also beer. Egyptian beer was not as strong as modern beer, but rather resembled a nutritious, thick drink. It was an important source of calories, B vitamins, and of course, fluid. This balanced approach to nutrition was one of the keys to their endurance. It allowed them to remain productive and feel good, even under the scorching sun. Could you stick to such a diet today? But food and drink saved them during the day. But how did they sleep at night?
This beer is particularly good today.
As is the stew. We are truly blessed.
Did you bring the bread up?
Yes, it is here. The children are already asleep.
When the heat of the day gave way to the long-awaited cool of the night, the Egyptians' lives did not come to a standstill. They used this time to rest, but they did so in a special way. The coolest and most comfortable place to sleep was not inside the house, but on its roof. The homes of ordinary Egyptians, made of unbaked bricks, heated up significantly during the day. The thick walls, which provided protection from the heat during the day, began to release the accumulated heat into the rooms at night. As a result, it became stuffy and hot inside the house. Therefore, when darkness fell, the whole family moved to the flat roof of their house. It was the coolest place. The roof, open to the winds, cooled quickly after sunset.
Come along now, it is time to sleep.
The moon is watching over us tonight.
Here, under the open sky studded with stars, the Egyptians spread out mats and went to sleep. A light night breeze blowing from the north brought relief and freshness. It was a natural air conditioner, accessible to everyone. This practice was widespread, from small villages to large cities. Flat roofs were not just an architectural feature, but an important functional space. Many houses even had special low railings for safety. Sleeping on the roof was not only comfortable, but also had social significance. Conversations, laughter, and music could be heard from neighboring roofs. It was a continuation of social life, transferred from stuffy houses to the fresh air.
Thank you, neighbor. We'll share these tonight.
For us, sleeping under the open sky seems exotic. For the ancient Egyptians, it was an everyday necessity, a simple and ingenious solution to the problem of stuffy nights. They found a way to sleep comfortably where it seemed impossible. In the sun-scorched desert, shade was one of the most valuable commodities. The ability to shelter from the scorching rays was not just a comfort, but a guarantee of survival. The Egyptians masterfully learned how to create shade where there was none. Covered colonnades were widely used in the architecture of temples and palaces. Long rows of massive columns supported the roof, creating shaded passageways and halls. These cool, dimly lit spaces were the centers of social and religious life. The contrast between the dazzling light outside and the gloom inside was striking. Wealthy Egyptians created veritable oases around their villas. They laid out shady gardens with dense vegetation, tall trees such as sycamores and date palms. Creating shade was an active process, transforming a hostile landscape into one suitable for life. The Egyptians did not put up with the desert. They domesticated it. They reclaimed space for life from the sun. These shady gardens and colonnades were not just elements of landscape design or architecture. They were the material embodiment of man's struggle against the heat. They were a symbol of the victory of reason and perseverance over a harsh climate. The ancient Egyptians understood that it was pointless to fight the midday sun. Instead, they structured their entire work schedule to avoid the hottest hours of the day. Their lives were governed not by the clock, but by the movement of the sun across the sky. The working day, especially for those who worked outdoors, began very early. Farmers went out to the fields and construction workers went to work before sunrise. They used the cool morning hours for the hardest work. When the sun rose to its zenith and the heat became unbearable, there was a long break. It was a kind of siesta. People hid in the shade, in their cool homes or under awnings. This time was used for lunch and rest. Hard physical labor at such times was not only ineffective but also dangerous to life. Work resumed in the afternoon when the heat began to subside. People returned to their workplaces and labored until sunset. Thus, the working day was divided into two parts by a long midday break. This rhythm was not only characteristic of builders and farmers. Craftsmen working in stuffy workshops also adhered to this schedule. Even military campaigns and troop movements were planned with the climate in mind. Long marches were attempted at night or in the early morning hours. During the day, the army rested, setting up camp in shady places. This schedule was not a manifestation of laziness, but a wise and pragmatic approach. It allowed them to maintain high productivity and protect people's health. The Egyptians valued human resources no less than material ones. They did not try to conquer nature as we often do. They integrated themselves into its rhythms and became part of them. Their wisdom lay in adaptation, not resistance. This example teaches us that sometimes the most effective solution is not to fight, but to adapt. The Egyptians found a balance between their goals and the laws of nature. And it was this balance that allowed their civilization to survive for thousands of years. In the stifling and still air of the Egyptian midday, even the slightest movement of air brought relief. And if there was no wind, the Egyptians created it themselves. Fans were a simple but effective tool for this. Fans were common in all walks of life. The simplest ones were made from a bundle of palm leaves or woven from papyrus. Any peasant could use such a fan to cool himself during his rest. In the homes of wealthy Egyptians, fans were true works of art. They were made from ostrich feathers, painted leather, or thin canvas stretched over a wooden frame. They were not only functional items, but also symbols of high status. For pharaohs and nobles, there was a special court position, fan bearer. This person had to follow his master closely, creating a constant breeze for him. In frescoes, we often see images of servants with huge fans on long poles. The principle of the fan is simple but effective. It creates a flow of air that accelerates the evaporation of sweat from the skin. It is this evaporation process that cools the body, creating a feeling of coolness. In addition, the breeze from the fan drove away annoying insects, which were abundant in hot climates. So the fan served two important functions at once. It was both an air conditioner and a fumigator. Air movement also helped enclose rooms. It mixed the layers of air, preventing hot air from stagnating under the ceiling. This made the atmosphere in the room more comfortable. The fan was such an important item that its images are found everywhere in Egyptian art. It symbolized breath, life, and divine protection. This simple object demonstrates the Egyptians' attention to detail. They understood that comfort is made up of small things, and creating a personal, portable breeze was one of those important little things. Even in our age of electric fans, we continue to use fans. This proves that ingenious solutions never go out of style. An idea born thousands of years ago on the banks of the Nile still brings relief to people today. We have looked at 10 ingenious ways in which the ancient Egyptians escaped the heat, from smart houses and linen clothing to air-conditioned wigs and edible sunglasses. Each of these methods is evidence of the incredible observation and ingenuity. Their approach was comprehensive. They used architecture, clothing, diet, and even cosmetics as part of a unified survival system. They didn't just fight the symptoms of heat, they created an entire culture of living in harmony with the harsh climate. The history of ancient Egypt is not just about pyramids and pharaohs. It is a story of how the human mind can adapt to the most difficult conditions and turn the challenges of nature to its advantage. Their legacy is not only stones and papyri, but also invaluable lessons in wise interaction with the surrounding. Please suggest topics for future videos that you would like to see on our channel in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new research into the mysteries of the past.